Putin is getting some bad news about the Russian economy. I want to go over that, and that is heavily impacted by the backlash that he's seen the global economy because of his invasion of Ukraine. They just won't stop it. And the takeaway here is it's interesting and disgusting to have someone who really truly cares. Like, you know, when Tucker did the Puff piece, you can play that when he got radicalized. He was saying he was radicalized because the grocery stores were nice, which, by the way, there's a HEB here in Austin, which is a grocery store that has one of those cart escalators. I haven't been to it yet, but somebody told me that. And it cracked me up because he thought that was the coolest thing ever in Russia. Look. And, look, Ma, no hands, he said in this Puff piece for Putin because the grocery cart went up an escalator.
Radicalized.
And he was radicalized. And and his argument has always been, listen, say what you want about Putin. Say what you want. Okay, killing a bunch of people, whatever. But he's doing what he thinks is best for Russia. And even if he believed that, that doesn't justify war crimes and mass murder and all the things that Putin is doing just because he wants glory and more land and more resources and has this sort of view of the Soviet Union coming back or whatever. But also, he can't believe that because his economy wouldn't be seeing the troubling signs, even though, as happens during war, there was a big boost in growth because of you kick it into gear in the defense industry and that can fuel things for a period of time. But once that pulls back, you pull that sort of like blanket off and what's under there is pretty nasty. And so it's not good for the Russian people. He sent hundreds of thousands of Russians to die for this imperialist goal. And it's just bad all around. So we'll get to that. But first, Trump was asked again about a potential offensive by Russia. And again gives the, now we'll see response.
Russia has about 50,000 troops stationed outside of Sumy in Ukraine. What will you do if Russia authorizes an offensive?
We'll see what happens. I'm watching it very closely. Mr. President? Yeah.
We'll see what happens. How many times, if you're a regular viewer of the show, have we heard that? The U.S. president has no interest, despite saying he was going to address or solve or get peace in 24 hours. He has no interest in actually putting any pressure on Putin. The Kyiv Insider says Trump administration just lifted sanctions on several Russian banks close to Putin, going in the opposite direction. But meanwhile, Putin says Russia will cut military spending as economy on the brink of going into recession. This could be good for Ukraine. This could be good. As we go through this, please do click the subscribe button. Just by clicking that button, it's free, completely easy through YouTube. It helps us algorithmically, whatever. I just hate that. It's so cringy. Fight the algorithm with me. Bah, bah, bah. Do you not like Putin? Well, the algorithm doesn't want you to subscribe. Okay, sorry. Yesterday, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced plans to cut military spending after officials warn that Russia is on the brink of going into a recession, informs The Telegraph. Putin said Russia would reduce defense spending next year and the year after over the next 3-year period, though he did not name a specific year's. Comments followed last week's statement by the Russian minister. Don't even think you're going to get a attempt out of this name for me. I'm not even going to try. Well, Luke, actually, I'm not even going to try this time, but Maxim, who warned that the country's on the brink of going into a recession, a significant economic slowdown. And essentially their economy, because some of the people like Tucker and others will go, and we heard this in his conversation with Witkoff, I think, he'll go, if Putin was so bad, why is he doing such good things for the Russian people? Their economy is growing at a pretty strong clip, but it's kind of artificial. We grew for 2 years at a fairly high pace because free resources were activated. We need to understand, this is the minister or whatever, that many of those resources have truly been exhausted. The country is also facing a labor shortage because of how many people are being pulled in the defense industry, etc. So it's a dire situation potentially. Kaylin Robertson, who is a journalist who does really incredible reporting on the ground in Russia, brought this to my attention.
So this week, Putin said something unlike anything he said before. He directly addressed Russia
and gave them a warning and said, we're going to have to start worrying and we're going to have to start dealing with the economy. And what that means is one thing: brace for impact. And this is unlike anything he's ever said before. And it shows that Russia is in a seriously, seriously bad position. And I know endlessly in our headlines and on our news feeds, we see constant articles about how Russia's on its knees, Russia's about to collapse, Russia's all over, Putin's going to be killed by oligarchs. And it can feel a little bit repetitive, and sometimes it can feel a bit exaggerated. But this is genuinely different. And things like this have not been said by the Kremlin before. Putin only says statements like that when it's the last resort, when he can't hide it anymore. The very mentality of the Soviet Union is to basically live in denial, to pretend everything's okay right until the last second. And this proves that this is actually the last second. And inflation is about to go through the roof. There are also videos and TikToks coming out showing stores in Moscow selling a piece of bread that's been cut in half, folded over, put into plastic wrapping, because there's going to be a food crisis, because food is going through the roof and the prices of food is going through the roof. And if you look at some of the newspaper reviews that have been coming out every single day in Moscow, reviewed here by the
The only thing I'm confused about here is I thought Tucker told me that you could get 2 huge jugs of milk from a Russian grocery store for like really cheap, and like that's why we shouldn't have rights in America. Is because sure, Russia doesn't have the freedom that we do, or doesn't care about the sovereignty of other countries, but did you see the jugs of milk? Did you see them? And it was like really cheap because people make less in Russia. Oh wait, I actually said something true there.
BBC. They show exactly that.
Economic problems feature widely in the Russian papers this morning. Russia's Minister for Economic Development, Maxim Reshetnikov, said that according to the current feelings of businesses, we are already, it seems to me, on the verge of going into recession. Sberbank...
And it continues through some of the details that I just went through. The thing is, here you have Radio Free Europe saying that the same headline, but it probably won't slow down the war. And that's what's so sick and depraved about this, is that no amount of suffering of even Russians for Putin will stop, it seems, this distorted, destructive ambition he has to continue attacking Ukraine unprovoked. And I emphasize unprovoked for so long, and we have to come back to this every once in a while. The defenders of Trump's weird Putin love affair would say, well, he was forced into it because it looked like Ukraine was going to join NATO and he had to invade to stop that. And there are some people I actually kind of like and respect who have ranted for years now about how all that's standing in between us and peace with Russia and Ukraine and peace is just no longer having warmongering politicians like Joe Biden. And
it's Joe Biden.
How if we could just offer them a simple peace deal that takes NATO off the table, it would all be over. But people like Kamala, crazy Kamala, just want war. She wants war, war, war. You think you fell out of a coconut tree?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
And war, war, war. That's the quote you didn't hear. After that, she said, I want everyone to die. I want a coconut to fall on everyone's head and everyone to die, because then the defense industry will get along. Right? And those people haven't circled back and gone, oh, Trump now became president. He was willing to offer taking NATO off the table, giving territorial concessions, giving defense concessions, so much. And Putin still, despite those things, peace on the table, Ukraine completely agreeing to a ceasefire, all of it, still, he's invading. So will any of those people, again, I'm thinking of one particular, who I actually like a lot of the times, and made that argument, and has not circled back and gone, I was wrong. Sometimes we're wrong. Please, it matters. Share your thoughts in the comments.